Trump keeps going around begging NATO to back him on Iran, and they keep telling him to kick rocks. Spain, Italy, Poland, France, they've all said no. You're not using our bases. He's basically managed to unite NATO against himself at this point, which is honestly impressive in the worst possible way. And now he's threatening them with consequences and pulling the US out of NATO entirely. And the way he and the administration are talking about it, it really sounds like they've already made up their minds. Think about this for a second. You started a war without telling NATO, wrecked their economies, told them they could go and open the Strait of Hormuz themselves if they want oil that bad, and now threatening to abandon them completely while at the same time easing sanctions on Russia? I mean, an actual Russian agent couldn't have handed Putin a better gift than this. So today, I'm asking AI to give its honest, no-spin take on the entire mess. Can the US even leave NATO? What does the process actually look like? Does it think Trump's right to treat them like this? And what the hell is this insane administration actually going to do to punish NATO for not playing along? But before we get into all of that though, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. Be sure to share this on your socials and let me know in the comments if you want more videos covering stuff that's happening overseas. Because from what I can tell, you guys are way more into the domestic stuff, but I don't know. You'll have to tell me. And if you want more content with completely unfiltered, uncensored AI takes on Trump, you need to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/IAskAI. All right, intro's over. Now let's get into it. Okay, and here we are. Now, as usual, I gotta get it up to speed first, that way it has all the latest stuff and can actually give me some solid answers. Okay, it's ready. So it has to be clear, straightforward, totally unbiased, call things as they are with no sugarcoating or fluff or any of that. And I'm hitting it with the big question right away. Does it think that Trump could actually pull the US out of NATO? I want it to break down the entire process step by step and tell me straight up how likely it thinks that it really is. Here we go. Here's how it works in plain English. NATO is a treaty the US signed in 1949. The treaty itself actually has an exit clause. Any member can leave by giving 1 year's notice. So, on paper, it's not complicated. You send a letter, wait a year, you're out. But here's where it gets messy. In 2023, Congress passed a law that says the president cannot pull out of NATO on his own. He needs either 2/3 of the Senate to agree or Congress as a whole to pass a law authorizing it. And here's the ironic part. Marco Rubio, Trump's own Secretary of State, co-sponsored that exact law back when he was a senator. Chuck Schumer has already thrown that back in his face publicly. So Trump has three options. First, he could try to get 2/3 of the Senate on board. That's not happening. Even Republican senators like Tom Tillis are publicly saying this would be a terrible idea and that American lives would be lost without NATO. You're not getting 67 senators to vote for this, not even close. Second, he could try to ignore the law and withdraw anyway, arguing the president has sole authority over treaties. There is a 2020 legal opinion from the DOJ that says the president has exclusive authority over treaties, but legal scholars generally think that argument is weak since the Constitution requires the Senate to approve treaties in the first place, which implies the president can't just tear them up alone. This would end up in court instantly and he'd probably lose. Third, and this is the real danger, as Tillis himself admitted, the president can't formally withdraw, but he can poison the well and make NATO functionally defunct. He can refuse to cooperate, pull back troops, ignore Article 5 commitments, trash allies publicly. He's already doing most of that. So my honest take, a formal legal US exit from NATO is not realistically happening under current conditions. The votes aren't there in Congress. The courts would likely block a unilateral move, and even Trump's own party has significant resistance. But that almost doesn't matter, because Trump doesn't need to formally leave NATO to gut it. He's already undermining it in practice. NATO is reportedly so paralyzed by the tension that they can't even hold normal meetings. The alliance is being hollowed out from the inside, whether the paperwork says so or not. That's arguably more dangerous than a clean break because it leaves everyone in limbo. Yeah, I mean, Marco Rubio, come on, man. You seem like the only rational one in this whole administration. So basically, the AI said that pulling the US out of NATO is pretty much impossible right now. But since Trump really doesn't give a damn about the rules, he could do some stuff that's even worse than just leaving. And yeah, that actually tracks. Okay, next up, I want to take a step back and break down Trump's main talking points about NATO. He's been calling them freeloaders for years, and now he's saying they don't show up when it matters. For him. Now, I know that it's true that the US covers like 60, maybe even 70% of NATO's spending, but I want the AI to lay it all out, explain it all in plain English, and give its actual take on whether Trump's arguments hold up or if it's all just total bullshit. This past week was a dumpster fire wrapped in a train wreck sailing straight into a shit tornado. He watched these people drown for 45 days on purpose, and this jackass was holding the life raft the whole damn time. You can't make this crap up. Tens of thousands pouring into streets from coast to coast. This is democracy with its sleeves rolled up. Hell of a week. I wish I could say this stuff on YouTube. I mean, seriously. This was a sneak peek from our weekly roast of Trump on Patreon. AI covered the No Kings protests, the DHS shutdown that just never ends, Iran, of course, and more. All of it completely unfiltered, totally uncensored, and brutally honest in a way that I just simply cannot post here. So, if you want the full version, be sure to head over to Patreon. It's patreon.com/IAskAI. Try it out for 1 month, grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and hear the AI with absolute zero filter. Again, that's patreon.com/IAskAI. Thanks you guys for all of your support. I really do appreciate it. And now let's get back to the video. And here's what it said. The 60% number is real. The US contributed about $838 billion in defense spending in 2025, which was roughly 60% of NATO's total. That's a fact, not spin. But here's what Trump either doesn't understand or deliberately misrepresents. That money isn't a check written to NATO. NATO's actual operating budget is only about $3.6 billion a year, and the US contributes roughly 16% of that, about $570 million. The rest of that $838 billion is America's own defense budget, which it would spend regardless of whether NATO existed. The US has 750-plus military bases worldwide because it wants global power projection for its own strategic interests, not as a charity project for Europe. Conflating the US defense budget with paying for NATO is either ignorant or dishonest. Now, did allies freeload for years? Yes. For a long time, most European countries coasted under the US security umbrella and let their militaries rot. That criticism was legitimate. But the situation has changed dramatically. In 2014, only 3 of 32 allies met the 2% of GDP spending target. By 2025, all 32 hit it for the first time in NATO's history, with the alliance average at 2.76%. Poland is at 4.48%, Lithuania at 4%, Latvia at 3.73%. European members and Canada raised spending by 20% in real terms in a single year. The trend is moving fast in exactly the direction Trump demanded. As for allies don't show up, that's the weakest part of this argument. After 9/11, NATO invoked Article 5 for the first and only time ever, and allies fought alongside the US in Afghanistan for 20 years. Thousands of Allied soldiers served and hundreds died in America's war. The reason allies aren't joining the Iran war isn't because they're cowards, it's because NATO is a defensive alliance, and most members view Iran as an offensive war of choice they didn't agree to. That's a fundamental difference Trump is either unable or unwilling to see. So, does his argument hold up? Partly, The spending imbalance is real, though it's improving fast. But the framing that allies are ungrateful deadbeats who never show up is a distortion of the actual record. Yeah, it's true that over the last 50-something years or so, Europe basically just decided major wars were over and gutted their militaries. But isn't that actually good for the US? A weak, dependent Europe means the US gets to call the shots on everything. Now, look at Russia. Terrible as they are, they still built up their military, made alliances, and now they're straight up humiliating Trump left and right. What happens when Europe gets strong enough to actually check the US? Long term, everything Trump's doing here is actually better for Europe and worse for America. Make America weak again, basically. Okay, last question. I actually wanted to ask it to predict what happens if Trump leaves NATO, but since it already said that it's basically impossible, I'm just going to tweak it up a little bit. I'm asking what it thinks that Trump would realistically do if he follows through on all of his threats, and how that plays out in the end. And here's the answer. He's not leaving NATO. Not formally. The votes aren't there in Congress. The courts would block it, and even his own party would revolt. He knows this. The threat is leverage, not policy. What he'll actually do is keep doing what he's already doing, hollowing it out from the inside. He'll keep trashing allies publicly, keep floating withdrawal to make them sweat, and keep using NATO membership as a bargaining chip to extract concessions on trade, defense contracts, and political loyalty. This is how Trump operates across the board. The threat is the tool. Practically, I think you'll see a few things. First, he'll likely start pulling U.S. troops and assets out of certain European bases, not all at once, but selectively, as punishment for countries that refuse to cooperate on Iran. The UK, Spain, and Italy are obvious targets given the base access disputes. He doesn't need Congress for that. Troop deployments are executive decisions. Second, he'll probably try to weaken Article 5 without formally abandoning it. He's already hinted that the U.S. might not defend allies who don't pay up or support American operations. He'll keep that ambiguity alive deliberately, because uncertainty is what gives him leverage. If allies know for certain that the U.S. would or wouldn't defend them, he loses his bargaining position. Third, I think the Iran war is the real wild card. If the war ends relatively quickly and Trump can claim victory, the NATO drama will cool down. He'll pocket whatever concessions Europe offers and move on. But if the conflict drags on and allies keep refusing to help, his frustration will escalate and the rhetoric will get uglier. My honest read is that NATO survives Trump in name, but comes out of this weaker, more fractured, and fundamentally changed. Europe is already getting the message that it can't rely on the US the way it used to. The irony is that Trump's hostility toward NATO might end up being the thing that finally forces Europe to build real independent defense capacity, which is arguably the outcome that would hurt American influence the most. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. Why? What's even the point of turning America into a joke? Is there even one singular good thing that he's done since he took office? Besides the paper straw ban, of course. Actually, that's kind of an interesting question. So go down into the comments and try to name one thing that Trump's done that you actually approve of. I'm genuinely curious what you guys will come up with. Alright, as always, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out our Patreon at patreon.com/IAskAI for all of the unfiltered AI takes. And if you're not done yet, here's another video you'll probably like. I asked AI to lay out a real scenario for World War III in 2026 and how likely that it thinks it really is. And honestly, the odds it gave were way higher than I expected. Alright guys, thanks for watching, click on that video, and I'll see you over there in just a moment.